quite weirdly, but Mike asked me to do this, and he says, "Oh yeah, Pin, can you do something for my guys on training, recruitment, and ROI?" And I said, "That's three things I'm absolutely passionate about." I thought this is a bit of a no-brainer, really, isn't it? So why don't you do it? I've been in the industry for recruitment, obviously 11 years, but in training for about 17 years now, showing my age, and I've seen a massive shift in what training, L&D, whatever you want to call it, has on the business. The attitude towards it. Now, some of you may have been on training where you go on a course, it's really great, have a fun time, you get all your notes and ideas, and you go back to your desk or back to your office, and full of enthusiasm, you get there, and it's like, yeah, we don't do it that way. Doof, and it's all gone, and that's it. It's forgotten about. And the training function has literally no accountability anywhere in whether that actually happens. We've gone from that model where it's not my problem, I've done my bit, I've ticked, Sanjay's been on a course, done that, business is your problem, to now where it's become integrated into a function, it's gone beyond just staff training. It looks at how we attract people, how we retain our staff, and how we do cultural and behavioural change. It isn't just a process. And I'm fascinated by that, and I'm going to share with you how that's happened and how that's evolved. And there's been a number of factors that's probably influenced that, really. I think we've moved away, especially in recruitment, 11 years doing this. I remember when I came into recruitment and said, yeah, training is just something that just happens, Pin, so go ahead. Just do it. And I suppose where it's changed is we've now realised that our greatest asset is not the database. So I remember being in recruitment when the greatest asset was our database. I remember being a client at Barclays and HSBC and recruiters coming in to see me and go, Pin, you know, we've got 1.2 million people on our database. Yeah, we can figure it out. I was like, yeah, okay, great. How many of them relevant to my job? Probably about 20. Okay, how many are active? 10. Oh, okay, great. So your 1.2 million doesn't really have much effect on me. And now, and I've looked at some of your websites, had a little bit of research on there, and you sell not your database anymore. Yes. What you sell is the skill of your consultants and your background and your experience and what you can bring to the table. And that, in order to do that, you need the skills and experience to be able to deliver on those mandates. I suppose the other thing that I've seen as influence is our hiring model. Now, the old hiring model in recruitment was, I'm going to hire 10 people, I'm not going to train them, a couple of them will make it, and then I might invest some money into them. Yeah? Is that right? Everyone come across that model? Yeah, the boiler room. Hold on a minute. I haven't trodden anyone's said anything wrong there. We're not still following that model. If you are, I'd kind of move away from it. We're now moved to the model where we actually want high caliber people coming into our business, yeah? We don't just hire anybody now. The thing with that, though, is when we hire high caliber people, they want something in return now. What sort of things do they want in return? These kind of people that want to join into recruitment. What do they ask for? Career path, yeah, there's a real emphasis on where is my career going to take me? How are you going to develop me? And I suppose we've had to react to that. And, you know, I suppose not every recruitment company's caught up yet, but vast majority of them have, that one of our biggest sales to bring in the right people is, this is the training that we offer. This is what we're going to give you back. It's not a one-way street anymore. It's about what we do. And I think the calibre of people that we're attracted now we're competing against, it used to be just salespeople, you know, people who would want to do, dare I say, and please don't offence to us because we have moved on from it, but double glazing estate agent, those type of people. We're now trying to attract the calibre of people that would go into banks and etc., real professional institutions. And we're now seen in that calibre. I certainly see our industry as competing and getting those kind of people into our industry. And so that's forced us to change. Technology, I think, has played a massive part in how training has changed how we deliver and engage with our staff. You know, shameless plug, but I use recruitmenttraining.com there. And that concept of how people want to be trained has changed. They don't want just the classroom anymore. It's not sending them off. They want access to training when I want it, when I need it, and under my terms. And that technology has driven that. I remember my first e-learning module at Morgan McKinley was simply, you watched the video and that was it. Woo! It was great, you know, it was a bit dodgy cam, or it was just a series of questions on a screen. Whereas now it's got much more sophisticated now. You watch the video, there's some industry experts doing it, you've got a questioning, there's some testing, but there's also that mechanism for us as managers in the business to track that, because they have to actually interact with that by writing their notes down, and we can then follow it up and make sure things are happening, and that's driven what training's about. But all of that needs investment, right? And what I love about recruitment is we're money people, yeah? We want a return on that investment, and we've got to get it. And I'm going to show you today how we can maximise that. Mike sort of mentioned that one of my ROIs at Faden, so the 3 firms I worked was Morgan McKinley. Took that business from when I joined, it was Imprint Group from 100, and my task was there to get it to 350 globally. Can you just do something with L&D? And we only did that by having great training, genuinely, and a good business plan, and everything was tied together. Faden, yeah, that was a 90-man business, get that to 250 in a couple of years. And again, we could only do that by having great people development and getting the skills to scale that business up, especially if it's an organic model. One of my ROIs there was, I remember my first meeting with the board, and they said, right, Pin, we need to get time to build down all of our rookies. Okay, that's a good measure of success. What is it at the moment? Yeah, probably about 5 months. It's actually 4.7. So what do you want? Sub 3. Okay, how do I do that? And it was putting in processes. And it's an agent for change. And that was changing the culture of that business through training on how we can go from, and we've got it down to 2.1 months. Huge success, you know, billing your first thing. And also, then they got greedy. Recruitment's like that, right? You guys are greedy. You know, I gave myself a pat on the back. I genuinely, and it sounds really rubbish, I know. I gave myself a pat on the back and I went, yeah, well, I did that. I got it down to it. Fantastic. Bonus. I know I was going to get a good bonus. But then Adam, who's the owner there, said, right, Pin, now you've done that. Can you now get the billings up in the first 3 months? He goes, well, what's the average now? About 18,000. He goes, right, okay. I want it to be above 30. Yeah, so took that from 18,000 in the first 3 months to 34,000. And again, that required another cultural change, and through L&D. It didn't do it any other way. It was about training our managers, not just our rookies, in how to do that, and training on new processes. So, yeah, it's a great return on investment, and we'll go through how that works. But I know as owners and directors, you like to talk money. And you like figures with a pound sign in front of it. So let me show you the return on investment and what we can do, if this works. Okay, great. So let's look at the impact of training. Now, PwC did an industry insights paper on, then it wasn't about recruitment as such, it was more about for investment into companies that are fast growing. And recruitment tends to have, most people who start a recruitment company have an exit strategy at some point. Yeah, not everyone, but some of them do. And so this was for investors to look at training and buying a recruitment business. And they said, look, what they found was that companies that have little or no investment in training, their average billing in the first year was 82,000 odd thousand. Not bad though, not bad return in first year. Yeah, not bad for some people. However, what they did look at is agencies and companies that did invest in training, and what they saw returns of was 167,000, nearly 168,000 return. That's not bad, billings in their first year. Now, go, okay, then that's great, but surely it must have taken a lot of money to do that. You've got to throw a lot of money at it. And this was a figure that was, sorry, it doesn't come up too well on this slide, actually, but I hope you can read that. It was only £1,500 per head per employee a year that they spent. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but that to that, and the difference there is probably about, what, a 500% return on your investment? Here's the caveat to it, though. It's not about chucking money at the problem. It's about the quality of what you do. And I said that training has changed its place in the industry, and that it's not just about developing people, but it actually impacts how we attract and retain our people. And here's some interesting facts from HR magazine. They looked at people in the industry, and particularly the first one is particularly prevalent to recruitment. People are 12 times more likely to leave a business due to the lack of quality training, not the lack of training. And that's the shift now we've seen, is the quality of training. And the other one is from HR magazine. That's just a general stat on. They looked at some job seekers and said, what do people look for now in when they join a company? And yeah, 63% of them put training as the 4th highest. Now, when I first saw that stat, I didn't think that was really, I thought, 4th highest? Oh, come on, I'm passionate about training. Can't people think higher of it? But when you look at the company it's in, and what candidates look for is, the 3 other words: salary, location, and reputation of the company. I think training ranks really, really high on that. The other 3 are almost givens, really. So it's really important that we do it. So today, as I said, I want to look at this and how we and you can impact that. I want to give you my thoughts, ideas, and to maximise that investment. But I also want to see what you come across. What do you do? I've got no shame in this. I've been in this industry for 11 years, and some of my best ideas I've stolen from people. Yeah, you steal it, You kind of go, oh, that's really good. I think I'll have that one. Oh, that one's good. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll see that experience. So please share. I'm going to obviously give you mine thoughts on things, but it'll be a really boring couple of hours if you're just me standing up here, all right? So as I said, I've got a couple of tasks for you. And I want to make it practical. I'm not a theorist, and that's something that I really want you to think about how your training is running your businesses. If it's too much theory, I've seen some bad training out there that's all theory-based. I want to make sure that we go away here with some practical things that you can try and implement almost tomorrow. We can start thinking about straight away. Okay, so I like to get you guys involved, and I've got a task for you. So this is your opportunity not only to stretch your minds, but your legs as well. Here is your task. Somewhere in this room is hidden a large brown envelope. It's got a big A written on it, so you're going to have to get up and have a look around. Once you found, empty the contents, and there's some instructions in there what I want you to do. So go ahead, try and find it. It's somewhere. Okay, so does everybody have a chance to put their stuff up? Has anyone got anything else they want to add to that? No? Okay, cool. Getting managed to drive training culture. Yeah, we've got quite a bit of that about training culture, self-development culture, a learning development culture, improve on employee engagement. MW, that would be Mark. Oh, is that Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, improve
okay.
engagement.
Follow-up. I've got somebody else that's about making sure training happens, how to measure the adoption of training, mindset, getting people to go and put in the extra, no limiting beliefs, where and when to train people, where and when, yeah, okay, all right. Okay, cool. Yeah, look, there's some real similar sort of thoughts there, which is good, because you're saying that it's sometimes like, is it just me, or other people have got similar problems and challenges that they want to do. And it might not be a problem, it just might want to be better at it. Yeah. I suppose it comes back to getting a return on. We could do all that, but it's getting that return on investment. I just want to have a look at, and we're going to go through a systematic approach on how we can do some of that, but putting in a good training structure, because that's what will help you with it. And Mike mentioned ROI, and he said ROE. ROI, which is return on investment. Which we talk a lot about, don't we? Yeah, we want a return on our investment, whatever we do. And it really does focus usually on the end financial result. What am I going to get for my X pounds that I put in here, or resource, or whatever? What am I going to get as a financial result? However, in building the functions, I've looked at it slightly differently. And I look at something called ROE. Now, typically ROE stands for return on equity. It doesn't mean that, obviously. It's return on expectations. And it really focuses on how you get the result. And it's an interesting thing, way of looking at it, because I believe that the result, if you focus too much on the end result, you lose focus on how do we actually get it. And it's almost, the end result is a byproduct of everything else you do. It's a bit like when you recruit, yeah? If you set your rookie a billing target of, let's just say, for argument's sake, 250,000 in a year, do you just let them get on with it? You say, right, there you go, there's your end target, and whoop. No. Yeah, see you at the end of the year, yeah, see you at the end of the year, we'll have a little check on it. What sort of things would you expect that person to do throughout the year that will give you confidence that that's going to happen? Hit some KPIs, yeah, we'll put some KPIs. What else would you do? What kind of KPIs would you put in there? CV sent out, yeah, any others? Yeah, core hours, how many meetings you'd go to, etc. You would put out why. Why would you do that? Yeah. So you focus more about what they're going to be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, which gives you the confidence. Because that will happen. If they do some of this, and this is obviously not an exhaustive list, okay? It's not, there's some more things. But if we do that, that's more likely to happen. Yeah? Is that a fair thing to say? Yeah, okay. And it allows you to track progress as well, doesn't it? Yeah, you kind of go, right, okay, and I'm going to capture things if certain activity is not happening or etc. on a daily, weekly, month basis, you can capture it and change things before the end of the year. So that's what we look at our consultants. Well, training's the same thing. So let's say we set our target of training is to increase your NFI by 25%. Lovely. Yeah. What things might you expect to happen throughout the year?
The things you mentioned in terms of time to build your favorite.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, so your time to build. But what would you expect the training function to do then? What sort of expectations might you have? Because that will happen, but is there any activities that you might think that this person will do? So deliver training would be one of them, yeah. The expectation on delivering training. What other things might, so is it just deliver it? What else might you expect from someone like me? If I was to come into your business and be your trainer, what else would you expect? Not just to deliver training, what else might, yeah, put in robust follow-up in. Anything else? Measuring it, yeah, absolutely. So what you'd want is your expectations are a well-designed, delivered content. Yeah, that'll be a massive expectation on me. Yeah, a timely delivery. Yeah, delivery at the relevant time. It's not going to take too long to get that training rolled out. You'd want to make sure I've got detailed feedback, pre and post coursework to make sure that's delivered and done, and it's got a nice slick process. Maybe a weekly follow-up, you know, some sort of monthly evaluation of where we're at. And that's the kind of thing that's going to help us. If we do this, that's more likely to happen. But the expectation goes further than that. Yeah? The expectation not just on the training function or the trainer, but actually, what expectations might you have of the delegate or the attendee? What expectations might you have? So you send a guy on a training course, what expectations might you set for them? They do some prep. Yeah, absolutely. They do some prep. They attend. Yeah. Amount of times when people try and shirk out of training. I've got a client meeting, even though they've had it in their diary for a month, or you know, I've got a really important call to make, and you're like, oh, come on, dude, really? So the expectation of the delegate, and that they would actually try to implement stuff. Yeah. That they would attend the follow-ups. Yeah. Etc. You set the expectations, and also on the manager. Because when you think about this, and this might be a bit of a strange way of looking at it, but I approach training as who's going to be implementing what goes on in the classroom or whatever training channel you decide to. Who's the actual person implementing it? It's not the delegate. It's not the attendee. Yeah? They have a responsibility to try it, but the real person that's going to make that training land, it's not the trainer, it's the manager. It really is your guys or their immediate supervisor. In my observations, I spend a lot of time sitting with the business and just watching what goes on. And the greatest influence they have, because it's a day-to-day thing, isn't it? They go back to the desk and they're asked to carry out certain tasks. It'll be that supervisor, their manager, team leader, that will drive that forward for them. And so you need to get those guys and expectations on those guys that they will follow through on the content. Yeah? If they don't buy into it, which is what some of you guys have sort of said, if they don't buy into it, what happens? It just doesn't. What do they say? I'm sure you've been on that situation before. What do they say? Well, the manager says, you come back from training, it's got all this. They go, yeah, well, we do it this way, or I cut this corner, or I do it that way. Yeah? So the expectation you set on the manager, that they will do the pre-course work, they'll make sure the post-course work's done. They'll make sure the guy's available for the follow-up, etc.
Could you explain the pre- and post-course work?
Yeah, so pre-course work, I'll give an example of that. I was going to do it later on design, but I'll give you the example now. Pre-course work might be, let's say you've got somebody, you're going to do client meeting training, yeah? And let's say it's for people who have never been on a client meeting. Pre-course work would be to put that training, before they go on that course, is to put it into some sort of context. So my pre-course work would be, on that scenario, is go, right, what I'd like to do is, it may be that you've got some online training, so they might have to watch a bit of that. But critically, if you don't have that, is to actually go on a couple of client meetings with people. Yeah, not lead it, but go on to them. Why? Because that when they come on training, it moves away from being theoretical to actually a bit more practical. Oh yeah, I remember going on a client meeting with Tony, and he'd done this, this, and this, and Pin's teaching me that. Oh, right, okay, I kind of get it. So they've experienced a little bit before. If you're trying to treat somebody how to headhunt, but they've never even heard a headhunt call, well, how do they get the idea and the practice, or in their head what you're trying to say in the training room, etc. So, or even if you're doing one-to-one coaching, you know, get them to do some sort of pre-course work. Yeah? And what you can set up with the pre-course work, I always think, right, what's going to happen after the pre-course work? So it'd be things such as, BD is a big part of our role. So I'd say, right, 2 weeks prior to the training, you're going to do BD, your BD training. For the 2 weeks following it up, what I'd like to do is gather as many leads as you can. Get as many leads as you do, because after your post-course work will be to pick up the phone and start nurturing those leads. But I need you to do stuff beforehand so you can implement the training straight away. Yeah? We kind of miss that bit there. And pre-course work comes in with what is the manager's responsibility? Yeah? To make sure it's done. Pre-course work also comes into what they want to get from the training. So they've been on a client meeting, or they've tried to headhunting, or they've done, etc. And then they come to the training with 2 or 3 things that they absolutely want to get. A little bit like that, but I didn't get a chance to give you any pre-course work. And so as the person delivering the training has an idea of what they need to include in it, what bits I need to focus on more, and what bits I can almost skim over, yeah? Because it's not going to be relevant to the group. Yeah? It's a really crucial part of the training piece. We focus a lot more on the content and what's going to happen in the room, but it's what happens before and after would really make the difference. Yeah? And post-course work is always centered around how they can implement what they've learned straight away. Yeah? Okay. My top tip for you is, if you're doing something that's going to be telephone-based and training on telephone-based, is that you do the training in the morning, and by the afternoon they've got their first almost follow-up to it, whether that be with you or somebody else, but they are targeted to do that activity straight away. The quicker they can start practicing it, the better it will be. All right. Cool. Is that all right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's. I'll go through a lot more on expectations and how you can make a robust thing. But you kind of get the gist of what we're saying, that having it also stops. I've had so many bun fights with directors, etc., over who has had the impact and who's contributed to that 25% NFI. You know, and some director will go, well, that's me. I've done that because I've driven my guy hard, or it was the market. It was just the market that's happened, or they're just a superstar. They're picked up. It's got nothing to do with training. So I set expectations to go, actually, I've done this bit, so if I do this, would you be fair to say that actually we've made a difference on that? Yeah, and it gets back to the return on expectation. Brilliant. Any questions so far? No? Cool. We'll come back to this. Okay then. So using a design model. Has anyone come across AIDA before? I've seen that. It's quite a classic one that's used. I'm going to run you through this, which will help you with some of those things that are on there. If you're going to start developing some training, whether that be a big program or just a one-off, there's a real simple process to follow, which is doing the analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. And we'll run through that now for you. So, the analysis bit, TNA, training needs analysis. It's something that you'll hear a lot from any training professional. You've got to do. But unfortunately, this is the bit that's missed a lot. And then we wonder why we don't get the results, because we don't do the analysis. And the analysis is really simple, really, really simple thing to do. It can be complex, and some people overcomplicate it. But really, basically, will be look at the tasks that your guys have got to complete. Yeah. So if we would take somebody new joining your business, what sort of task will they have to do? So they might have to be able to use a system. Yeah. Input candidates onto the system. They might have to be able to write adverts. It could be anything. Yeah. All the tasks. It's actually quite a hard thing to do, because it requires you to sit back and go, actually, what do I need my guys to do? What are all the things that somebody at a consultant level does? And now what are all the things that a senior consultant does and a manager does? I can help you with that. I've got some of these already. So if you do want some copies of stuff that I've done in the past, more than happy to send it to you. But it's just taking a step back and go, what do I need my guys to be able to do? Once we get all the tasks sorted out, this is what each of my guys have got to do. Then we do the analysis bit, which is really looking at the skills, knowledge, experience, and behaviour they need to be able to do that task, and how good are they in those areas. Which then gives you identify the gaps. And because once you've identified the gap, you know what training to actually put in. The cardinal sin I see many people do, and I mentor quite a lot of other L&D people within recruitment, and the cardinal sin is, let's just do training for the sake of doing training. And they base it on a one-time observation. Somebody's made a mistake on the phone, suddenly they need that training. Yeah? And what this will help you do is actually look at patterns and trends. Yeah? Not just one. Everybody has a bad day, right? So you might be sitting in your business and opposite one of your consultants, and they've just had a shocker on BD or whatever it is, and you suddenly go, what's the thought that immediately pops into people's heads? You've just seen the person, they need training, they need help with that, bang, it's gone. But actually, let's see if they're just having a bad day. And actually, do they need to do the whole bit, or is it just parts of it? With the analysis, I spend a lot of time listening to people, observing what goes on. And what you'll find is they're making mistakes in one type of call or activity, that usually making that similar mistake in somewhere else. So you're looking at what is it they need to be trained on.
Good question, though. So obviously, like most companies, I imagine, you've got the whole billing managers.
Yes.
This feels like a full-time job.
No.
People,
Yeah.
Which is, of course.
Yeah.
Like, so unless you haven't got that kind of capacity,
Yeah.
how can you capture this and be on the needs?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Billing managers, billing.
Yeah, but as a billing manager, one of their roles and responsibility would be part of training, developing their team. So I would suggest that part of their day, and it can only be half an hour to an hour, it doesn't have to be like a 2 hours, is actually training their guys.
Which is recommend like
Oh,
daily follow-up.
absolutely, absolutely. It's the only way I've changed the training culture at Faden from being very hard, boiler room type, is actually I physically took the monitors away from the managers for an hour. I literally unplugged it and went, right, there.
So that was a daily task.
Yeah, go and spend time with your team. Yeah, go and spend time with them and develop them. Help me develop them, because you've got so many skills on that. Now, you don't have to go to that extreme because you can foster the culture, but getting your guys to spend, and what they'll find is they get to like it, because you start to spend time with them, and it helps that retention because I'm being developed. My manager takes an interest in me. If you look at a lot of surveys, recruitment industries, a lot of people leave because of their manager.
Would you recommend it comes from the direct manager as well? Say like direct or would...
I think it could be anybody, really.
Along with somebody saying,
Yeah, because if we take that culture that we're all responsible for training, so if you notice something, give them a bit of feedback and feed that back into whatever mechanisms you want to do. Now, if you don't have a full-time trainer, your mechanism might be that they feed into you, as you're learning an ops, aren't you? Yeah. So it might be that they feed back into you or into the owner or any of the directors. Yeah, and you're getting that analysis. It's really it's crucial how you do it. Whether you go really complex or just use a simple system like this. I mean, a really simple TNA that you can do on a quarterly basis is a simple Excel sheet. You print off, give it to the managers, and go, right, there's the recruitment tasks. I get the guys to self-assess themselves. Yeah, There's obviously a little guide on the background, say what's 1 to 5 or 1 to 8, whatever it is. Get the managers to do the assessment as well, and then the final rating. And I incorporate that as part of their monthly review. I mean, obviously the list is much, much longer, and that's a simple way to do it. And then again, you just send it back to, or you collate that information and go, right, actually, as a business, we're really poor at ad writing. Yeah? Everyone seems to score really low on that. Right, okay, but looking at the people that are really poor at it is our senior guys. Do I need to do a full half-day course on ad writing? Probably not. And it helps us to then go into what do I design? What's the delivery channel that I'm going to use to upskill these guys? Is it just a bit of coaching? Is it a lunch and learn? Is it something I just do in the morning? Yeah, but you can start to analyse what you do. It honestly doesn't take that long. Once you've done it, it really doesn't. You get it in. Again, when I send you it, you'll see that it's pretty straightforward. Put a mark in it, get it along. If I've still got it, which I think I have, is it'll almost transfer that data and put it in a summary form for you. You can have a quick snapshot of what it is. It will take the data in there. If you get them to do it in Excel rather than print it off, it will take that and just put it into a nice little summary. This is what your senior consultants are. This is what the average score is.
So is this a quarterly thing?
Quarterly thing, yeah. The beauty of this as well is that you can see track the progress. If I did one on you, let's say at the beginning of the year, and let's do client meeting HR, and you scored yourself 2, when I get you to do that over the next following quarters, if you're still a 2 or a 3, I'm thinking, I've got a problem here. Yeah? You've had the training, you've had the development, why is it still a 2? Yeah? But what you should be seeing is those scores increase. The final rating is where me and you have a discussion. So if you're my manager and I'm your consultant, what we do is we go, right, you scored yourself PIN, you scored yourself 5 out of 5 for client meetings. I actually think you're a 2 and this is why. And it almost forces the manager to have that conversation with someone, a very honest conversation about the skill set of their people. Because that's something that doesn't happen as often as it should in our industry. We don't have that. We're trying to dodge the awkward conversations. And this kind of almost is forcing us down a little bit of a route to go, let's take a real good look at your skill set. Where are you? And it might be for your guy who doesn't want to progress, that might be quite useful to go, actually, this is your skill set. This is where you're rated. This is where you rate it. This is where, let's see how we get you this final rating higher. And this is what I'm going to do for you. And I've had it many a time when I've sat with people and gone, geez, you know what? I'm making progress in this job. So the billings might not have suddenly gone through the roof. And then they feel a bit despondent. I'm rubbish at my job. I nearly said a bad word there, Mike. You told me not to. I'm rubbish at my job, or, you know, this is something that I'm just going to go. But actually, if they can see that they're making progress in their skill set, it might actually make them feel a little bit better about themselves to push on to the next stage. Yeah, cool. Any questions on that? Yeah. Okay. There are more complex tools that you can use. Anyone done 360s before? So for your managers, 360s is a great tool to use. If you haven't come across the concept of 360, really, really simple. You get opinions and feedback on the person above them, so it might be their direct reports or more senior to them. You get people that are their peers and below. And it's just getting that feedback in there. So for managers, directors, I tend to not to do so much this, more a 360. And it's again, a great... However, there is a caveat that I will put in on that. Don't just download a 360 tool and go, right, I'm going to roll this out to my managers. It will fall flat. You have to train the guys and on, A, how to accept the feedback that they're going to get, because some of it's not always very nice, but also training the guys who are going to complete the survey, yeah? And giving them the confidence that your feedback will be confidential and it's not going to get leaked, and otherwise you don't get the honest feedback. Yeah.
Unless the manager's only managing one person.
Yeah, unless you're managing one person. But then, actually, if they're managing one person, what you would do there is they still have an impact on the business, right? So you could get feedback from other people that's below them, but not directly reporting into them. Because remember, it's 360, so it doesn't have to be straight into direct reports. But try that. Again, I'm not going to go absolutely into detail about it here, because we'll run out of time. But if you do want something, you can always let me know, and I'll go through it with you afterwards, and I'll point you in the right direction of some tools that you could use. Cool. So we've done our analysis. We've got an idea of what we want to do. The temptation now is, let's go and design some content. Woo! Yeah? Actually, it's not. Great, this gives us what our skill gaps are, but we still need some hard data. Still need some hard data to back that up. So we'll look at current billings, what the KPIs are, the conversion ratios, and I look at staff churn. I always think I think training is, I take it on my responsibility that training has an impact on staff churn, and that's one of the measures. But your analysis could be based on whatever your ROI will be at the end of it. Yeah, but get some hard data on where you're at the moment. Yeah? Which is quite easy for us in recruitment because we have that data and we look at it all the time, so it should be quite straightforward. This all comes back to the impact of training. Yeah, is it having an impact? Right. So beginning of the quarter we were this. We've run some training, etc. Where is it now? A little bit of a mistake I made, and I don't mind sharing my mistakes with you, so you don't fall into that trap. When I looked at KPIs and billings, etc., recruitment is very seasonal. And so just be mindful that when you're comparing, if you're comparing a peak quarter and then you're going into where is a dip, maybe through the summer months, August tends to be a little bit quieter because of school holidays, you're onto a hiding to nothing and your results won't reflect it. So just take the average trend over 2 or 3 quarters, which give you a nice baseline. Yeah, and again, you should have that data anyway. If you haven't, I recommend you have your baseline figures. All right. Yeah, because I got a kick in because I used peak quarters, and in the following quarter, everything just dropped off a cliff, and it's like, yeah, oops. We're not tracked for our NFI pin, but yeah. Or you compare from this time last year, might be another good one. All right. But either way, you need to get some hard data in to do that. Brilliant. So we've got it. Design. Has anyone designed training before? You have, because you've done L&D, haven't you? You've done a bit of design. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And this is a bit of a misleading title, because design people think is content. It's actually not. It's a delivery method. How are we gonna deliver? Most training that people trying to look at is classroom. Yeah. And that seems to be the first place that people go. There are so many different avenues that we can train our people. If we use just one avenue, people suffer from training fatigue. A lot of people in my industry don't like to admit to that. Of course people don't get training fatigue. They can't get enough training. It is training fatigue. And yeah, oh God, it's another training course. And it doesn't matter how well it's designed, if you overdo it. I'll give you an example where people, with all the right intentions, don't quite get it right. Hopefully none of you run this, but you may do, and it might open your eyes to it. But 2-week inductions. 2-week inductions are absolutely, for me, personally, it's a very personal view, don't work. Yeah? Don't work. Because A, it's too much intense training in a too short period of time, and they don't get a chance to practice it. It's usually also very heavily classroom-based, and we don't incorporate all the other things in there and mix it up a little bit. And they tend to forget half the stuff that they learn anyway, and they don't get a chance to work. So we need to look at the delivery method on how we do. Classroom, yeah, on the desk, on the job. I'm going to look at the 70-20 model in a wee bit, which is sort of a lot of people have been talking about in training. But lunch and learn, would anyone do those lunch, yeah, brown bag sessions? I love those. Come in, 45 minutes, bang. So if it's a short thing, it might be that you want to do LinkedIn searching, etc., sourcing, and you want to do something really quick, don't need a session on it, you could do lunch and learn. Online resources, reading materials, something that we don't actually do enough of. Do you know how you like to learn? Do you have a preferred style? I mean, do you have a preferred style, man? Auditory, yeah, you want to listen. So, do you do podcasts? Yeah. Do we as a business do that, though? Yeah? Do we tap into that? I'll tell you one thing, and me and Mike were talking about this. Part of the training design and how we're going to deliver training is that we tape calls, and then we let them listen back to it, and I normally download it onto their phone, and then on the way home, look, you're going to be stuck on a train for an hour. Why don't you just listen to a couple of calls that you've made today, and start thinking back. But it's great, and it really is powerful because it's got the self-critique, and people are learning by that. I normally take feedback as well. So if I'm giving you a coaching session, I might say, look, is it okay if I tape it? Yeah, and then I'll send you a copy of it. Brilliant, and they listen to it on the way home, and it really just works because it just reinforces what they do. Obviously, you do the written feedback back to them, but get them to listen to it on their phones. It's brilliant. And again, but reading materials is really good. Just some quick tip bits that they can just kind of take away and use. Role plays. We're all good at role plays. We'll do role plays. Yeah, we'll do it. Anyone feel comfortable doing role plays or uncomfortable doing role plays? Yeah. Do you do it? No. I mean, no, seriously, because it's actually quite a skill to do. Go on. We're in a safe environment here. How many of you feel not as comfortable as you would like when doing role plays? Yeah. Thank you for your confession. Thank you. What? They feel a bit contrived. Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on how you do that. Now, I'll give you an example of how I do it. Is people kind of do that sometimes when you're in the classroom. I used to get my guys in training that would have a phone. Most rooms have got a phone in it. And so if you were my trainee, Tony, you on a course, or a few of you, I would prep a manager. Say, right, you're going to dial that manager, and you actually do it on the phone. So it's just that little bit more realistic. And actually, when you phone that manager, they might not actually be available to talk for as long. You know, I am busy, actually. Yeah? Even though they're expecting it, they could be genuinely busy. You've got about 3 minutes. And I'm not kidding. I've actually got 3. And it's like, whoa, we have to do it. And again, you can tape it, put it on a loudspeaker, and it gets people to... just feels a bit more realistic than doing it on there. But what might help you with role plays, one of the things that people struggle with, and I've observed, is taking the notes. What am I actually looking for? Having simple checklists really helps on that, because it's really hard to do the role play and get the notes as well. And so having a checklist really helps. The alternative, if you've got the resource and the time, is to have a third person taking the feedback. That's only if you have the time. Or taping it. I used to videotape, so if I'm doing client meeting training or negotiation. These things are wonderful now, these smartphones nowadays. Yeah, also iPhone 6 got a 4K camera on it or something, is it? You know, most of the smartphones have got really good cameras on it. All I do is I buy one of them little tripods, little camera ones, yeah, phone tripods. They cost about a couple of quid in Maplins or something. And you put it on there and say, like, I'm going to tape it. Is that all right? And because it's quite discreet, you can just put it over there and we do the role play. So it's not staring at it. I haven't got a camera like that staring at me, because that can put people off. But you can put a little phone there and it's fine. I always look at training, especially with rookies, is you're conditioning them for the real world. You know, it's a bit like a boxer. You know, he's got to spar, he's got to do that, he's going to get hit a few times. But why do we do that? So when he steps into that ring for that prize fight, he's ready. But you don't go straight in hard on it. You build it up, and that's what we want to do with our guys here. Self-learning. Yeah, take that thing else. What is their self-learning that they could do? So self-learning could be, I want you to go and, could we do self-learning through either online, or do they go to some exhibitions? Do we encourage that with our guys? Do we get some self-learning through you ask your guys for advice on your market? That to me is self-learning. It's going out there and I'm going to learn this myself. And giving that onus is on, yeah, this is a client meeting, but it's actually a bit of training for me, and I'm developing my skills and my knowledge. Coaching and mentoring. Who's got a coaching and mentoring scheme in their business? Yeah? Okay. Coaching and mentoring is a great thing to have internally. However, look at the quality of the coach and the mentors that you're using, and have they been trained to actually be a coach and mentor? And the skill set. I've seen a lot of times where, and I've made that mistake thinking, let's do a mentoring scheme, but didn't really develop the skills of the mentors and the skills of the mentees, you know? So we need to, it's great having that as a part of the delivery method, but just making sure you guys are qualified to be coaches and how they do it, especially on the confidential confidentiality side of it, and what are the rules of engagement. You know, one thing that I had to do at Morgan McKinley is actually agree with the board that somebody comes to me as I'm their coach and tells me I'm going to leave the business. What are the rules of engagement around that? I'm not going to tell you. You know, that breaks that trust. Are you comfortable with that? What I will do is try and encourage them to open up to you about what their thoughts are, but I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, and that's where you just got to be careful of what you do, and where does those boundaries lie. I'm very confident that I set myself up as quite independent to the business, as a neutral, but just think about that before you rush out and do a coaching and mentoring scheme. Just understand where the rules are of engagement on that one, and peer-to-peer. Something we miss this bit. This peer-to-peer learning is so incredible. I'll give you an example of how I've used it. Rookies are brilliant, and they're quite nervous when they join the business. And you can use peer-to-peer, not as an expert, but I use peer-to-peer learning as an encouragement to my juniors who've just joined the business to go, look what you can become in 6 to 8 weeks' time. So I get so if you joined the business, I've developed you at 2 months, and I'd get you to do a session on something, whatever you were specialised on, to my junior staff. And when you see someone go, I'm quite nervous, I don't know if I'm going to make it in this industry, but there's that guy there. He's only been here 2 months, but look what he knows. Shit, I can do that. Yeah? Damn, I could become that. That's easy. If he can do it, I can do it. And it's that peer-to-peer learning and that buddy system. Genuinely, really look at it. Training is about getting people the confidence to do something, not just giving them the knowledge. Cool. Got that? So the delivery method. The design is all about the delivery. How are we going to deliver it, and how are we going to get this across? And there are pros and cons to a lot of this stuff. Cool. Any questions on that? Yeah. Cool. And it has a big part into some of this stuff about getting that culture and getting training reinforced, that we're using different methods to tune into different way that people learn to do it. Then comes to the fun bit. Oh, and I said to you 70-20-10 model. Has anyone heard of this? Has anyone heard of 70-20-10? It's something that's been quite controversial certainly in the L&D world, and firms are picking up on, you know, it's a model of how you structure your training. And they say, look, 70% is done on the job experience. Yeah, it's how a lot of us learn, by doing it on the job. 20% is through peer-to-peer learning, coaching and mentoring, and only 10% is formal classroom. If you Google this, you'll come across it. A lot of firms are adopting it. However, this is where the controversy comes into it. In principle, it's perfect. Yeah? It's really good. And it's something that's been around for years. What people have got hung up on, and where it does divide the L&D world, is the actual percentages. My advice to you would be is take the principle that a vast majority is going to be on the job. They're going to need peer-to-peer, and there's going to be formal class, but don't get hung up on the percentages. It doesn't have to be 70-20-10. I think that's a great marketing sort of tool and the way they market it, but vast majority will be there. There'll be some elements on it. So when you come into design, go, how am I implementing this training? Yeah? And don't let anybody just sell you too much down the river of, that's an absolute. Yeah? The firms I've worked for, on-the-job experience has been, at certain points, because of the skill level, only 60. Yeah? And I've gone, right, okay, actually, peer-to-peer, they haven't got the skills, so I'm only going to do 10% of that, and the rest of it, I'm going to have to do formal classroom, and then I'll change the ratios once I know that the guys are skilled enough to do something. Yeah? So now comes this development bit. This is where a lot of these things that you've got on here is going to happen, is the development of the content. You guys want accountability, getting managers to drive the training, a self-development culture, leadership development program to help succession planning, process of creating return on investment of trainees. A lot of this stuff, mindset, it all comes into the development bit. Yeah, it's no accident that I've put managers at the top, because I said to you, the guys that are going to really drive this and implement it is your managers, and getting them involved in that content Me and Mike went to see a company who designed a great training manual. Do you remember that? I won't say who they were, but it was a great training manual. It was a great one. But it didn't involve the managers in anything. They never even read it or anything like that. There was none of this. What part do you own in this training? Yeah? And so it's capturing what they think and adding to your existing material. How I did it with my guys, really just got them in the room. So, right, these are the training courses we're going to run. Do you want to just add your tips, your ideas? What would you like included in there? Yeah? Or here's some existing material. Just review it. Just highlight things that you really agree with. Cross out bits that you really don't. Yeah? And when you do that, who owns that material now? Is it me, or is it the managers, or is it a joint ownership? If you've designed it, if you're my manager and you've helped input into that, who now owns that? Is it me? Everyone. And so when that person goes back to the desk, their senior con or the consultant goes back to his after training, and the manager of that training, they're less likely to go that training was irrelevant. Why? Because they were part of it. And I normally tell the business that, look, here is all the content, and it's designed not just by me, but all the senior guys. Yeah? And so therefore they have an accountability that they can't say it's irrelevant or rubbish or anything like that or ignore it because they've been put into it.
A lot of people are set in their own ways.
Yes.
So people are just, they like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some old directors, some
yes.
managers that have been there 6-7 years.
Yes.
And then you want to implement all this training. This management stuff, management style, and all these stuff. Yeah. What are the reactions? I mean, Jesus,
the initial reaction, you'll get mixed. You'll always get mixed. No one's going to just jump up for joy and go, woo, we want to do this. But actually, you kind of go, right, look, if we want to change this, and when you start getting other people to, if it's just me as a voice going, we need to change, you're going to get the barriers. But actually, if it's your peer group as well going, look, I do it this way, maybe there's a better way of doing it, it becomes in a collective. Yeah? And people start buying. You'll still get people who will be very resistant to it. This is the way I want to do it. Well, that's fine. That's something that comes in time. Yeah? And we are results driven. So my view would be, just stay doing it the way you do, but you know what? Look at that team over there. They're killing it. And suddenly, what do you want to do? Hold on a minute. What are they doing that I'm not? Yeah? And you invest that time in that. And then people would now automatically get drawn to the content and the understand. I used to have people that say, I don't need training, Pin. In fact, the first words that somebody said to me when I first came into training at Morgan McKinley, I said, global head, what the F are you going to teach me? You've never done recruitment. Do you know who I am? I was like, no, I don't, but I guess I'm going to find out. And you'll get that, I know what I'm doing, but you start getting people involved in it and the value that they can bring. That top biller was actually he's now a director there, and he's an incredible guy, and he's probably my biggest advocate of training. But he was driven by, once he could see what the other teams were doing and how good they were performing, suddenly I want a piece of that. And that's how you get people involved in it. You can't force it. If you try and force it, like your guy, he ain't going to want to know. He's like, you're backing me into a corner. Get him in there. But involve the managers or senior consultants into that content. Whoever's going to implement it at the desk, get them involved in what that call should look like and their key messages. And also, you'll learn something yourself. Existing material, there's a lot of collateral out there. There's so much that lives on personal hard drives. And there's some real gold there. I mean, it's gold. And trying to get that material into one central drive is a really great place to start if you want to get training design done. We end up spending a lot of time reinventing the wheel when there's some brilliant stuff there. So if you can, encourage you guys to start putting it into a central drive. But look at the existing material and see if it's out of date. Some of it is you'll find stuff that you go, geez, that's like 1980s recruitment. Things have moved on a little bit from there. But don't discard it because there are some gold in there. I talked about pre-course work and post-course work. And again, if these guys are designing it, the managers along with you, they're more likely to do it. Yeah? You're not imposing something that they haven't agreed with. Yeah? What do you think the pre-course work would be? What would be reasonable for you to be able to do? Yeah? What's then my responsibility? What's your responsibility? What's it? And it goes back to ROE. What's return on expectations? What's realistically done? In terms of the design, rather than just trying to think about fancy activities to do, start at the objective. What do you want them to get out of it? What's our main thing? Yeah. Is it just to have fun? No, it's not. It's to actually do the key thing that you wanted to take away from the lesson. And what are the skills gaps that it's supposed to be addressing. And then you can monitor whether your training is effective. Interactive. How many of you guys have been on training courses where it's death by PowerPoint? Been on those ones? Been on those ones? Yeah. Slide 102. And it's just guys sitting there going through stuff. There's no questions. There's no, how do you make it interactive? How do you kind of get them to start thinking about it? And actually, how does it become less about the person at the front to more about you guys? Yeah, and that's how the self-learning becomes. Think about learning styles. Anyone done any work on learning styles? Yeah, I mean, it's whether, again, don't get too hung up on that. You know, somebody, a theorist, activist, how they learn. Is it through auditory, visual, kinesthetic? But actually just trying to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, trying something that's a little bit different. A little bit different. That's when you get your content, rather than just designing slides. Yeah, think about how can I make this different? Do I change the room around? Do I deliver it in the same room? I try not to deliver training in the same room if I can, you know, or if you've only got one room, that's fine, but actually see if you can turn the projector, or if you're going to use projector or the flip chart, turn it somewhere different. You know, that comes into all about the content and how you're going to set that up. Cool. Here's the implementation. So you've got some great content. You've done your needs analysis. You've got the great content. Everyone buys into the design of it. Now comes the implementation. How do we roll it out? Okay. Putting things in advance is probably my best advice I can give you. When you're rolling it out, schedule stuff. Do not, especially if you're doing more formal stuff, schedule it in advance. What you want is people to be able to know what's expected of them. Who's going to be training it? Who's going to be attending it? And the manager. Everybody knows what's happening. Yeah? Everybody knows. Especially if you're doing formal classroom training. The other stuff that's on the job learning, etc., then we set the expectations. You know, when is that going to happen? Who's going to be doing it? I've mentioned about pre-course work and the follow-up and implementing what they learn. Now, if you're doing something that's new, do the launch, get people excited about it. Yeah, it does need a bit of internal marketing. You can't just say, right, we're going to do a training course. Great, here we go. If it's something fresh, exciting, get the managers to really pump it up. And so people get infused by it. Yeah. But make sure that people are aware of what's happening. Yeah. Do anyone use an intranet? Yeah, yeah. Do people actually use your intranet? Do people do it, or is it just a bit?
50%.
Yeah, I kind of avoid the intranet as a means to launch stuff. I know a lot of companies do have it. If you look at the traffic going to it, it's very minimal. You can drive traffic to it. My post-it notes all are falling off, aren't they? You can drive traffic to it by doing that, but up to you. On controversy, I don't know, Mike, if you have a view on internal intranets or not, but I just don't think they work. We used to have a training board, just a whiteboard training, so who's going on it, it's what we're doing, successes. It's quite visual, and you put little quotes on there from the feedback, etc. So it gets people to start getting excited about it. But the implementation comes in is structure. Make sure people know exactly what they should be doing. Cool. Any questions or thoughts? No.
I think that's a good idea of having a training board with successes on there, because people are going to see that, and the cynics will then start to buy into it.
Yeah. What are the successes of training? Plus, it's easy to update. Yeah. You just got a whiteboard. This is what's happening. I used to have a big one at Morgan McKinley that was month to month. The whole month was mapped out, and everybody could see what's happening. And it was like, damn, why am I on that training pin? Why am I on that one? Can I go on that? It's like, yeah, well, you can. And then you get the culture of people wanting to come to training. God, I'm really struggling with this. I know you're doing BD or closing clients or retained selling. Can I go on that? Okay, yeah, sure. Speak to your manager, let's put it on there. And it drives that, yeah. Okay, evaluation. Right, we always want to evaluate. There are certain models out there. Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of training evaluation. I kind of take a slightly different take on it. There's four ways to evaluate your training, and it all fits one after the other. So if we take the first level, reaction. So somebody goes on the training, capture the feedback straight away. What was their reaction to it? Did they find it useful? Did they not? What was covered? What are they going to take away from it? Yeah. And what are the actions they're going to do? So the reaction is normally, you would have probably filled out a post-course feedback form. You've done those in the past. Usually given out at the end of the training and you can tick it through. And it's just to get the immediate action points. Yeah. So you can see that is the training well received. Yeah. There's a couple of ways you can do this. There's a paper way, pros and cons to them. The paper format is great because I can do it straight away. Yeah, and get it done now. And you fill it in, and I've got that. However, collating the data from there and transferring it into something that's meaningful can take a bit of time. Other techniques I've used, mostly is SurveyMonkey. Again, it's great because it keeps it very confidential and you can send it out. However, the downside of that is that do you have the time to chase people up to make sure they do it? Yeah. So SurveyMonkey is great, but will people do it? Versus paper, where they will do it straight away. If you want a sample of one, I've got a paper version. I've also might even have one that I've got on SurveyMonkey, and I don't know whether you can share that with you guys. But if I can, I'll ping that over to you or give you access to it, and you can download it and use it. Very, very simple. Keep it simple, and just make sure. So there's your immediate reaction on what they thought about the training. And that's useful because when it comes to implementing it, say, well, look, this is what you said. Yeah, immediately. Do bear in mind, though, that, and I've experimented with this a bit, is sometimes people like that 24 hours of reflection. So when the euphoria of training has died down a little bit and they've had a chance to think about what is my learning objective, what is it actually I've got from the training. So immediately they might think, woo! They sleep on it a little bit and then they go, yeah, actually, no, maybe not. So do play with that. Again, the downside of giving somebody 24 hours is do they actually fill in the feedback for you and do you get that? But there are other ways of capturing it. Capture from the manager. Yeah, so part of the post-course work could be just get some notes on what they're going to learn from training and how we're going to follow that up. The next level then, it's over a 1 to 4 week period, depending on what the training will be, is looking at how they applied the learning. So there might be some things that they can do straight away, but have they started to apply it? The 1 to 4 week period is usually because depending on the course itself. Yeah, if it's a retained selling, they might not be able to do something straight away. And that's done through observations by either whoever's run the training or the manager, whoever. But the follow-up and the feedback loop is absolutely important. Absolutely crucial that you have a feedback loop, not just for the manager to you as a business owner, but the loop then goes back to the delegate, the consultant, whoever attended it, and make sure you've got that. Has anyone got feedback, like forms and things, or how do you collate feedback or give feedback? Do you have any particular tools, or is it just... Sorry?
I'll just ask for it to be emailed.
Yeah. Email is great. So initially getting the feedback. How do you then deliver the feedback? Is it via email or do you...
Yeah, via email.
Right, okay. Okay, it's fine. What's been people's reaction to that then, when you deliver the feedback by email?
Should be basic,
Yeah. No. Does somebody else use email or is it face-to-face you try and do it? Yeah. Yeah, face-to-face. Yeah, I would try and do it face-to-face where possible. I know...
The bonus of email is that you've got a record of it.
Yeah.
If it's face-to-face, you need to go write it down.
If it's face-to-face, your feedback and then you follow up with an email because you've got more action points then. And you have a bit more of a discussion because you can understand why that feedback is. Yeah? Do you use a particular model or anything like that? Yeah, there's various feedback models. There's AID, which is probably the most basic one, which is action, impact, do, and how you structure your feedback. So action, what have I observed? What have you been doing? The impact of that, so how it's affected your billings or the impact on the client or the candidate or the team. And this is what I'd like you to do going forward. Yeah, very, very simple feedback model. There are more complicated ones out there. I use that, it's very simple. Feedback sandwich, obviously, where you kind of put that. Again, I don't recommend that as a way because when you look at feedback, it's fine if you want to use it, but I always think of if you go nice, hard, nice, what bit do they remember? Yeah, you kind of lose them at the hard bit. You kind of lose them, and then they kind of feel a bit motivated. So whatever you say afterwards, they're not going to listen. It's almost like saying, "You were great, but," yeah, and then you're great, yeah, and that's the bit that says. So I try to avoid it. What I would say is to give feedback is to set a culture of I'm going to give it to you as it is. Yeah, I'll give you as it is. People always say, "Pen, you're quite hard." It's not that I'm hard, but I want to be genuine and I have to be honest. So if something's not right, I will tell you. And if you're doing something wrong, I'll tell you. However, when you do something right, you know that I'm not just playing politics, it's my honest opinion. And that's the bit where feedback really works, is that the person takes it as you're being honest with them. Yeah. And if you get that feeling that it hasn't quite sunk, what do you do about it? Do you carry on there and then, or what do you do?
I think you try and change the environment.
Yeah, deliver it again. And normally just wait. What are your thoughts on the feedback yesterday, by the way? Now you've had a chance to think about it. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean there, or no, I didn't accept it, or what feedback is the word one. I've had that a few times. What feedback? Yeah, you glazed. So, yeah, it's them just checking in, again, a different environment. Yeah. Sometimes where you give that feedback, is important. It doesn't always have to be in a formal environment. Sometimes by the coffee machine or something like that. Just a little bit of feedback is useful. The thing I'd say is try and do as much of it at the desk where you can, unless it's really negative feedback you've got to give, but try and do it at the desk, especially if it's positive. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't want to get people up out of their seat every fucking 10 minutes to go and give feedback in a room, because the other thing with that is it takes ages in a room. People get a bit comfortable and you end up having a very long conversation. So applied learning comes from, so I normally schedule something in to review it in 1 to 4 weeks' time. Are they actually, are they doing it? Are they applying what they do? So you normally ask them what 3 things they're going to do as a result of the training. How's that going? And then we look at, and so applied learning comes into the technicalities of what they're doing. So are they asking better questions? Are they looking at spotting greater opportunities? But what we're looking for there is not just applied learning, because that's actually quite short term. Anybody can do that. It's whether there's now a behaviour change. Is it something, how they gone from being consciously competent to an unconscious state, where they're actually just doing this? They're not, are they doing it because they don't have to keep looking at a crib sheet? It's part of their natural psyche. And that can take time. We're starting to see that their behaviour is starting to change 6 weeks. And again, that comes into observations, follow-up, and a bit of testing. Are we seeing that change in behaviour? Yeah? Because we're starting to see some more return on investment here, and ultimately the results. Now, it takes about up to 6 weeks for somebody to change there and start seeing the things, the fruits of your labour. If you're going to run training and go, right, I want immediate return on my investment, it doesn't always happen. It can for a short term. Everybody gets buzzed up after a session, they go and smash the phones, or they go out there and go and meet loads of clients. But is it sustained? Not. Yeah? Once the buzz is over, what do people then go back to? Type. Yeah? They just go back to type. And then we do the needs analysis a quarter, 3 months later, and it's the same thing comes up again. Yeah. What we have to look at is how do we then start seeing the results through and pushing it through by constantly reinforcing it and positively. And I look at the hard data. Obviously, the testing comes into it, observation and evidence and review. So ask people to evidence what they've done. What impact has that made? So I've given you training for 3 months. What's the evidence on the back of that? And asking them to write down is really powerful. Yeah. I'd say, well, I want you to just write down what you actually have done. For rookies, brilliant to do a 3-month assessment. Yeah. And almost for them guys, I would re-interview them for the job. They don't know that, but I'm looking at that. That's the mindset.
Also get them to maybe do a presentation.
Absolutely. So yeah, presentation. I normally get them to do a presentation after 2 weeks.
So 2 weeks of what they've learned.
After 2 weeks, yeah. So in the first 2 weeks of rookie, it's all about market knowledge. For me, it's all about understanding their market, jargon, bit on the structure of an organisation. So what's the career path for someone? Because they mostly speak to candidates in those 2 week period. So you kind of go, right, okay, I'm going to test you that. Okay, how are they applying that learning? So what have you done as a result of that? In about 6 weeks' time, I'll go, right, I want you to do a now presentation on what you've done so far, how you've applied that learning. So you've had some training now, how have you applied it? And 8 weeks later, 8 to 12 weeks later, I then go, right, okay, here's assessment time. We're starting to assess you on the skills that you've got. Yeah, and we'll do the role plays, etc. On that assessment. And I can send you a copy of the assessment that I run with my guys. More than happy to do it. And there's a lot of prep work that they would do, but it's all evidence-based, so it's almost like competency-based assessment. So tell me about a time when you've had to deal with a difficult candidate. Yeah? Tell me about a time when in the last 3 months that you've had to win over a client that didn't want to do business with you. What did you do? Yeah? What training have you applied in that?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, everything all goes together, but to get your kind of return on investment, let's say, is it 2 months?
Yeah.
What would you, it all works together, of
Yeah.
course, but what would you say the key biggest factor? The whole thing changes.
The biggest factor was actually having those milestones of success. Yeah. What do I want you to be able to do in 2 weeks' time? Yeah. And then what I want you to do in the next 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks, because you're looking at short term. If I said to you as a rookie, right, in the first 3 months I want you to do a deal, yeah, that's great, but it's the how. Yeah. So if I break that process down in the 2 week chunks, it's very easy for you to follow. Very, very easy.
I think somewhere where we fail massively is that the only bit that we do an evaluation on is the reaction.
Yeah.
I think looking at all of that there will ensure that you get kind of all of those things on there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because you're constantly assessing yourself. You're constantly asking questions of yourself and say, what is my investment in training doing? Is it actually helping me? And if it's not, why not? And you'll get that from the feedback and the follow-up and the observations. What's missing? Yeah? What is actually missing? And then you can address it. The temptation can be just to blame the individual. Yeah? If something isn't working, from my experience, the first person I look at is me and what I'm delivering. What am I doing? Yeah? Not arrogant enough to think that everything I do or we do is pitch perfect. It's not. Yeah? I could be missing a trick myself. So what do we do? Yeah? How do we adjust things? And what am I learning? Yeah? So yeah, again, it's a pretty straightforward process. Again, I will give you some materials that will help you with that, those 4 steps, some documents and things that might help you with it. My only caveat I'll say that is that I can send you the stuff, but it's how you would then apply it. It's like giving a trainee a manual and going, right, here you go, there's all the information you need, but it's applying it and doing it. So, and again, I can help you with that if you want any help over the phone or whatever. I can send that to you. But that's sort of basic evaluation. I'm going to run out of time. So, in summary, ROI is the product of ROE. Please remember that. Return on expectation. That is what's going to make the biggest change for your training. is that return on expectation, make sure everybody knows what is expected of them. Using the AID methodology, really go through, it's a process of the design. It's not just, let's look at the end product. I've seen a lot of people out there who've gone into the training field thinking it's a simple thing. Yeah, it's the guy standing up at the front. I've got a flip chart. I can do this. So there's a little bit more behind it, and do think about the methodology that you put in. Involve your managers, line managers. They are key thing to making training stick. Mix it up. And did I say follow up? Did I say that? I can't remember whether I mentioned that today. I don't know whether I mentioned it, but just in case I missed it, it is follow up. Yeah, follow up. Every single time. Everything you do with every single person, just make sure that it's happening. You can only, if you're not doing that, you can't blame anybody else for training not hitting. Yeah? You really can't. And it's an ongoing evaluation. It's not just a one-off. Do look at it.